Before there were guns, before there were factories or railways or the thunder of steel on iron, there were warriors, silent against the prairie wind, moving with the patience of the earth itself. Their weapons were carved not in greed or conquest, but in respect, shaped from bone, wood, stone, and spirit. And each one carried not just power, but meaning. Hey, you're watching Echoing Westwinds, where we ride through the legends, histories, and hidden truths of the American frontier. If the untold stories of the West still stir something in your blood, make sure to subscribe, because the echoes of this land still speak if you're willing to listen. Now, let's step into the world before the Winchester and the Colt. Before gunpowder remade the West, let's walk in the footsteps of the first warriors and discover the weapons that defined them. For countless generations before the first wagon wheel crossed the plains, the people of this land had mastered the art of war and survival. To them, a weapon wasn't just a tool of violence, it was a part of nature's balance. The bow that fed the tribe was also the bow that defended it. The same flint that sparked a fire could become the edge of a blade. And the same hands that carved a spear did so not in anger, but in reverence. Among the many tools and weapons of Native America, 5 stood apart, each one a reflection of their way of life, their craftsmanship, and their bond with the spirit world. They were weapons of survival, of ceremony, of identity. It begins, as all stories of battle do, with distance. The range weapons. Before rifles and revolvers, the most feared weapon on the plains was the bow. It sang in silence, a quick hum, a whisper of death carried by the wind. Crafted from elm or hickory, sometimes horn or sinew, each bow was shaped by hand and heart. No two were ever quite the same, because no two warriors drew their strength from the same place. The string, the soul of the bow, was often made from twisted deer sinew or braided horsehair, stretched tight and smoked for strength. The arrows, perfectly balanced, carried stone or bone tips chipped razor thin. Each was fletched with feathers angled just so, guiding it through the air like the wing of an eagle. For the hunter, the bow meant food. For the warrior, it meant protection. But in both cases, it was life itself. When fired from horseback at full gallop, a Lakota or Cheyenne warrior could loose an arrow every few seconds, faster than any soldier with a musket. And unlike the clumsy reloading of a gun, the bow never failed in rain or wind. It was quiet, efficient, and deeply personal. To strike true was not just to aim well, but to honor the spirits of the hunt. Beyond the bow came the spear, long, simple, deadly. Used both for hunting and war, its reach made it the weapon of choice for the brave who met their enemies face to face. The shaft, carved from ash or cedar, was polished smooth and often decorated with feathers or paint representing the warrior's family or spirit guardian. A spear could be thrown by hand or with something more ingenious, the atlatl. A small wooden lever that acted as an extension of the arm, the atlatl gave the thrower both speed and distance. With it, a hunter could pierce a bison's hide at more than 100 feet. Mounted warriors turned the spear into something even greater, the lance. Longer than a man was tall, balanced for horseback combat, its tip glinting in the sun like the fang of the earth itself. In battle, a warrior could lean forward in the saddle and strike an enemy before they ever reached him, the force of horse and human combined. The range weapons of the early tribes weren't just practical, they were works of art. Every feather tied, every cord wrapped, every etching carved into the wood held a story, a life, a lineage. But not every fight was fought at a distance. Sometimes, survival came down to what you could hold in your hand, the striking weapons, the hatchet, the club, the tomahawk. To the outsider, they were simple tools of war. To those who wielded them, they were symbols of strength, discipline, and precision. The tomahawk, small enough to carry on the belt, sharp enough to cleave wood or bone, was one of the most versatile weapons ever crafted. Before iron came west, its head was made of flint or obsidian, lashed with sinew onto a wooden handle. Later, when traders and blacksmiths arrived, tribes began shaping them from forged metal, sometimes blending the old with the new, a pipe bowl on one end, a blade on the other. Thus was born the pipe tomahawk, a weapon that could take a life or seal a peace. In ceremonies, it was smoked to honor treaties. In war, it was thrown with accuracy that stunned soldiers who'd never seen a man move so fast. The club, too, carried power, often carved from oak, maple, or even buffalo bone. Some were crowned with a rounded stone, others sharpened to a point, still others shaped to resemble the stock of a musket, a clever imitation of the weapons of the newcomers. These gunstock war clubs, as they came to be called, mirrored the curve and weight of European rifles, and they struck with the same deadly impact. To be hit by one was to feel not just the force of a warrior's hand, but of generations who'd mastered the art of close combat. The warrior and the weapon moved as one, fluid, fast, unyielding. And yet, for all their deadliness, these weapons weren't made for cruelty. They were made for balance, the balance between life and death, between chaos and honor. Then came the blades, the cutting weapons. Knives were as sacred as they were practical. Every man, woman, and child carried one. They were used to prepare food, skin game, shape tools, cut sinew, and when needed, to defend a life. Unlike the long swords of Europe, the native knife was short, light, and intimate. It was not a weapon of domination, but of survival. The earliest blades were shaped from flint or obsidian, their edges sharper than steel. Handles were carved from antler or wrapped in hide, sometimes adorned with beads or quills. Later, as contact with settlers grew, iron and steel began to replace stone, but the spirit behind the blade remained. Some knives were passed down through families believed to carry the protection of ancestors. Others were forged from fallen meteorite iron, literally pieces of the sky turned into tools of the earth. Every cut, every mark, every polish was an act of devotion to both craft and spirit. But not every weapon was made to strike. Some were made to shield, to defend not only flesh but faith. Among the Great Plains tribes, the war shield was more than protection. It was identity. Made from buffalo hide stretched tight over a wooden frame, it was painted with symbols of dreams and visions. Lightning bolts for speed, buffalo horns for strength, eagles for courage. Before battle, the warrior who bore it would fast and pray, seeking guidance from the Great Spirit. He would stretch the hide over fire, smoke it and harden it until it was strong enough to deflect an arrow. And as the flames rose, he would sing a prayer for endurance, for clarity, for purpose. The shield wasn't meant to hide behind, it was meant to stand behind, to hold the line between chaos and survival. When the buffalo herds were slaughtered in the late 1800s, the tribes lost not only their food source, but their strongest material for shields. Some turned to elk or horsehide, others to wicker and cotton, but nothing ever replaced the hide of the buffalo, or the spirit that came with it. Then there were the shields that protected something deeper. Not the body, but the soul. These were called medicine shields, lighter than war shields, smaller in size, and carried not for combat but for guidance. They were sacred objects, painted with the dreams of their owners, blessed through ceremony, and believed to hold the power of the spirits themselves. Each mark, each color, each feather told the story of its bearer. To carry one was to carry faith, an armor unseen but deeply felt. Before a hunt, a battle, or a journey, warriors would hold their shields to the sky, calling on their ancestors for protection. They believed that courage wasn't born from the hand that held the weapon, but from the heart that guided it. In the quiet hours before dawn, the firelight flickering on the painted leather, it wasn't just preparation, it was communion. The weapons of the first warriors weren't forged in forges or factories. They were shaped by wind and bone, by earth and intention. They came from a world where every strike carried meaning, and every creation honored the cycle of life. And though time has buried much of that world beneath railroads and towns, the echoes remain in the stories, the songs, the surviving artifacts that whisper of balance, honor, and spirit. For the Native American warrior, battle was not about conquest. It was about continuation, the continuation of tribe, of tradition, of belief. Their weapons were not extensions of rage, they were extensions of identity. Today, when we look at the museums, the displays behind glass, the arrowheads dug from the dirt, we see more than relics. We see the ingenuity of a people who built their strength from the land itself. Weapons that never fired a single bullet, but changed history all the same. They remind us that the truest strength doesn't come from what we destroy, but from what we protect. You've been watching Echoing Westwinds, where history still breathes through the dust of the frontier. If this story moved you, subscribe and join us again. Because every week we bring the echoes of the West back to life, one story at a time.